We are live now, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'll give it one more minute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is 7 o'clock. At this time, I would ask council to bring themselves on screen. At this time, I would like to welcome all of you to the 47th session of council on this Monday, May the 10th. We have been in closed session since 6:15, and once I call it to order, we will do the rise and report from that closed session. As usual, this is a virtual meeting, but our code of conduct, all pertinent legislation applies to this meeting as if it were held in person. And again, I welcome all of you and our audience to the meeting. So we'll call the meeting to order for 7 o'clock. As noted, we have been in closed session since 6:15. And during that closed session, we received and approved the closed session minutes from March the 8th and April the 12th, as well as provided direction to staff with regard to an offer to purchase on lot 18 in the Loyalist Business Park. With that, if we move to open forum, is there anyone in the audience, to the clerk, is there anyone in the audience who has indicated they wish to be in open forum today?
Nobody registered with us, Your Worship. I'm just looking to see if there's any hands up.
Any member of the audience wishes to address council in the open forum, you put your hand up through the digital format. Clerk will bring you in.
Do not see anyone, Your Worship.
Seeing none then, all right, we'll move on. Agenda item 4 is the public meetings and notice of public meetings. There are no such public meetings this evening. So we move to the confirmation of the agenda. We have the agenda before us. Are there any edits or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda. And I'll go to Councillor Townend, seconded by Councillor Porter. And any comment? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof for any item on the agenda? I see none. And then we'll move to the minutes. We're looking for confirmation of the minutes of the 46th session of regular council on April the 26th. We have the minutes before us. Are there any noted errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I have a mover to approve those minutes? I'll take the deputy, seconded by Councillor Porter. Thank you. Mover, any comment on the minutes? Seconder?
I'm sorry, I can't second that. I was absent.
Okay, do I have an alternate seconder? Councillor Budrick, thank you. It says seconder, have any comment? And anyone else? Then I'll call the question on the minutes. And all those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. At this time, we move to delegations and presentations, and we have a year-end presentation from the auditors from our accounting firm. Does Mr. Dickey, do you wish to introduce them? Everybody on board?
Oh, thank you. I think not Phil is going to, but I can. I guess I see, I know between Anne and Kara. Not sure who's presenting tonight, but yeah, I'll turn it right over to them. They're going to present on the year-end financial statements and kind of the findings from the audit and kind of some of the key, the key things they found through the course of their review. So I can turn that over to them now.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Kara and Anne. Right. Who's going to be presenting tonight?
So I'm Kara. So I'm the partner on the file. So we're gonna give Anne the opportunity tonight. She's a great presenter, so she'll be presenting, and I will be driving the bus on the slides.
Okay,
So I will just give me a second. I'll share my screen.
thank you.
Okay. Hopefully everyone can see that now.
I can. Is any member of council not able to see it? I'm seeing no hands, so please go ahead.
Okay. So thanks again for having us here today to present the results, and I will turn it over to Anne to present the findings from our report.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so our objectives in presenting this audit findings report to you is to discuss the results of our audit of the consolidated financial statements, to communicate any matters of which members of council should be aware of, and to discuss any other matters of interest to you today. Okay. So I'm going to draw your attention to the first paragraph of the auditor's report on our in our independent auditor's report. So this paragraph indicates that we believe the consolidated financial statements present fairly the statement of financial position of the township of Loyalist. So it presents fairly the statement of financial position, the statement of operations, and the accumulated surplus and statement of changes in net financial assets. And our opinion on these financial statements is based on a materiality of 1.1 million. So this is a threshold by which we would consider an item to be misstated if it was not adjusted. However, our posting threshold, you'll note, is only 5% of this amount, which what that means is that we would propose an adjusting entry for anything over 55,000. Management could decide not to post an adjusting entry since it would not be considered material, but then it would need to be included on our summary of unadjusted entries, which would not be able to exceed that 1.1 million amount. So up to today's date, the audit is complete, pending council's approval of the financial statements and receipt of the management representation letter, which will be signed with today's date if the financial statements are approved at today's meeting. And we will circulate that letter to be signed after this meeting. So during our audit, there was no difficulties encountered and no new auditing or accounting standards in 2020 that you should be aware of. So our audit process. So in our audit, we review all the significant accounting and management reporting systems with each material year-end balance. We look at key transactions and other events considered significant in consolidated financial statements. We focus on understanding the controls utilized in management reporting system to identify overall and specific financial reporting risks. And then we also have specific areas of focus. So two specific areas that we look at are revenue cutoff and recognition, specifically around deferred revenues. Revenues tends to be an area that's considered especially risky for auditing. So as it's an area that can be easily manipulated. So that's an area we focus on. And then we also look at the cutoff and completeness of developer contributed assets, as there is some judgment in this area to determine when to recognize these assets appropriately. So our audit outcomes. So from our audit, there was no audit adjustments that we proposed. There was no significant internal control weaknesses. And then any other control observations, improvements we have already been provided to management. Okay, so this is a statement of financial position. So this statement shows, it reports on the total values of assets and liabilities, and it shows the township's ability to meet liabilities and future commitments. So the net asset position has improved from 4.4 million in 2019 to 8.4 million in 2020, reflecting the ability of resources to fund future services. So the net asset position has improved due to an increase in financial assets offset by a lesser increase in financial liabilities. So specifically, you'll note that total financial assets increased from 31 million to 36 million. And this is primarily due to an increase in accounts receivable for funding amounts receivable and HST recoverable on capital asset projects at year end, such as the Edgewood and Compton Road design, the Bath water filter upgrade, and Bath Main Street resurfacing. Additionally, property tax receivable has increased in correlation to the increase in property tax revenue. You also note the financial liabilities have increased from 26.9 million to 28.2 million. This increase is a result of increased accounts payable and accrued liabilities, specifically those going from 6.3 million to 7.3 million, due to an increase in holdbacks and warranty retention on the capital asset projects just mentioned, and additional one-off amounts payable at year end. This increase in accounts payable is offset by a decrease in long-term liabilities due to principal repayments on debt decreasing as the total principal decreases. So non-financial assets have increased to 163 million from 155 million. Acquisitions and additions in the current year totaled 12.61 million. Large projects in the year included, as mentioned, the Edgewood and Compton Road design, which was approximately 1.87 million, the Bath water filter upgrade about 3.6 million, and the Bath Main Street resurfacing of 1.93 million. So this was offset by amortization expense of 5.09 million and a disposal on capital assets with limited proceeds. So this graph shows the history of the capital asset additions and indicates that the capital asset consumption ratio is 66%, which is actually exactly the same as in the prior year. And this value indicates that the township has moderately new capital asset infrastructure. So this graph shows the split of the capital asset additions in 2020. And as you can see, the majority of additions relate to additions in work in progress at 38%, which are assets that are not yet in use, and roads at 30%, followed by stormwater systems at 14%. So this note shows the township's accumulated municipal surplus. So ending in 2020, the township had an accumulated operating surplus of 4.88 million as compared to 3.18 million as a result of the surplus in 2020. It is noted that in March 2021, council approved the distribution of unappropriated surplus to various reserves and reserve funds in 2021 in council motions 2021.24 and 2021.23. So net investment in tangible capital assets of 15 million. This has increased over the prior year due to the new capital asset additions, and total reserves set aside by council of 1.91 million and reserve funds of 17.8 million compared to 1.42 in reserves and 14.7 million in reserve funds due to more transfers into reserves and out of reserves during the year. And that's, I think, the same slide. So this is the statement of operations. So it shows the total revenues and expenditures and other income and expenses related to capital. So total revenues for the year were 38.4 million compared to 36.5 million, primarily as a result of the increase in municipal taxation of 12%, consistent with the budgeted figures. Government transfers have also increased consistent with funding agreements. And additionally, there was an increase in other revenues for land sold during the year, particularly the sale of one property. So the actual revenues were higher than budgeted revenues, primarily due to that land sold at proceeds of 130K that was not previously budgeted for. So total expenses for the year were 33.6 million compared to 30.9 million. This increase in total expenses is fairly consistent with the increase in budget. There's slight decrease to budget over budget expenditures for delayed or deferred hires, reduced amounts billed for fuel, or facility expenditures as a result of COVID. So this chart shows the total split in expenditures, and you'll note that environmental expenditures account for 31% of expenses, transportation at 27%, followed by protection services at 17%. So to summarize our audit findings here, there's an increase in net assets due to the increase in accounts receivable, tangible capital asset purchases and decrease in long-term liabilities. There was an improvement in the net operating surplus for 2020. Your capital asset consumption represents a moderately new infrastructure. There's total tangible capital asset additions of 12.61 million, and the majority of expenditures, as in prior years, relate to environment and transportation. And there was no new significant accounting standards or developments to note. So I will also want to just draw your attention to the statements, just to show one of the new notes that was added this year. Karis, if you don't mind pulling that up as well. Okay, so this note, you would have seen a variation of this note last year in the statements, listed as a subsequent event note. And since COVID actually happened during the 2020 fiscal year, it's now being referred to as a significant event note. And this note, essentially in the first paragraph, it goes over what has actually occurred with COVID during the year. And the second paragraph goes over what the impact of COVID has been on the township. So that being that the township has provided relief to township members in the form of waiving interest and penalties on late property tax payments, bag tag requirements, and passenger fees. And then indicating that these measures did not significantly impact operations. The note also indicates that funding was received as part of the federal provincial safe restart agreement to support COVID-19 operating costs, and that the full impact, as we all know, of COVID is still unknown. So that was the presentation and the statements. Does anyone have any questions on either the presentation or the statements?
Thank you, Anne. Council, do we have any questions for our auditors at this time? Seeing none. And
Okay.
we'll say thank you very much to you guys for the presentation.
We just have one question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So one thing we are required to ask at this final meeting here is whether there are any additional subsequent events up to today's date that anyone is aware of that may either need to be disclosed in the statements or recorded as an adjustment to the financial statements.
Any member of council? Any additional information for the auditors? I'm seeing none.
Okay.
And we'd just like to, thanks again to management and the team you guys have there. It went quite smoothly, especially given, some of the COVID restriction we were faced with. So really appreciate all the time that management and the team has put in with us to get this done and completed. So thanks again.
Thank you. Well noted. And council, final opportunity for questions for the auditors. And can I get a motion to receive the report from the auditors? I'll take Councillor Parks, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any comment? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, and I'll say thank you to the auditors for coming and presenting tonight. And with that, we can move forward. No unfinished business, nothing from the Chief Administrative Officer. We move to item 11.1, which is the 2020 year-end financial statements and net surplus. I believe Mr. Dickey is coming on screen. Mr. Dickey, thank you. Do you have anything to add at this time?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Phil Renders, assuming his internet's working, is going to lead this review this report with council and answer any questions between he and Brianne, our senior financial analyst. So I'll turn that over to them if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Renier, go ahead.
Yeah, nothing to add at this time, other than auditors kind of touched on it. Just want to thank all the finance staff, Brianne, our analyst, all our accounting clerks. And we also can't do it without all the other departments who love getting emails from finance staff, especially around year end. So really it's to thank everybody for dealing with us. And yeah, here we are. So if anyone has any questions, I'm here to do my best to answer them for you.
Thank you very much. We do have a report with recommendation with 6 parts. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Renier or his staff? Seeing none. And do I have a motion? I'll go to Councillor Buderick.
Motion to accept recommendations 1 through 6 and commend the senior staff in the finance as well as everyone else in finance for doing a great job.
Thank you. That's so moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Porter, thank you. And Councillor Buderick, any comments? Councillor Porter? Nothing? Anyone else have comment? Seeing none. And I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. I think that's it for business services. We move to item 12.1, pickleball in Loyalist Township. We have a report before us, and I'm assuming we have Ms. McFarland, all in very dark. And welcome, Director. Do you have anything to add to this report at this time?
Not at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. I do note that the report has a couple or clauses in the recommendation. I direct council to, if they, well, we'll go to questions first, but when we get to a motion to identify which portions of that recommendation, if they choose to use it. So do we have any questions with regard to pickleball for Ms. McFarland? I'm seeing no questions. Do I have a motion? I'll take the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Parks. Deputy, any comment?
Just to specify which portion,
Thank you.
to receive the report and adopt recommendation portion 1.
And, okay. And Councillor Parks, you're seconding that? Okay, thank you. Do you have any comment? No? Does anyone else have comments with regard to this? Oh, sorry, Councillor Parks, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to thank staff for bringing this back. It was something that was on a topic that we brought up a few months ago, so I'm glad to see it come back to council.
Thank you. Anyone else have comment? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor of the recommendation and item 1, please raise a hand. Any opposed? And motion is carried. Thank you. We move forward to item 12.2, Academy Street request for alterations. We have a report before us. We still have the director here. Director, do you have anything to add to this report at this time?
Not at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions with regard to this report? I'm seeing no questions. And again, I note the and or clauses in the recommendations. If there's no questions, can I get a motion? Councillor Parks, go ahead.
To receive the report and adopt recommendation number 1.
1, okay. And so moved. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Porter, thank you. Councillor Parks, comments?
No.
Councillor Porter, comments? No. Anyone else have comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to item 12.3, live music Sundays. Again, we have the director here. Ms. McFarland, do you have anything to add to the report at this time?
Not at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? No questions? And do I have a motion? Including direction. Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Move to receive the report and direct that staff have no involvement and that the proponent of the event be reminded that the events cannot occur unless it's in keeping with the rules currently or in place in the future.
So moved. Does the clerk have clarity on that? Yes, okay. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Buderick, thank you. Councillor Porter, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I think we've already done our part by waiving the fees. It is a great thing for our community, but it is also a privately run event. And I don't think that we should be expending any more staff time on it. And we also want to be sure that we are not held to any liability should the event planners break any of the rules.
Thank you. Seconder comment? No? Anyone else have comments? I'm seeing none. Right. Then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We move to Economic Growth and Community
Subsequent
Development
motion.
Services Department, item 14.1. Am I
Sorry,
seeing a hand, Deputy? Go ahead.
for subsequent motion to the previous one.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. The motion would be to request staff to review the council ad hoc / donation request policy for updates and recommendations, including an application and a post-funding evaluation form, and I'll speak to it if it's seconded.
Thank you. And the clerk have, does the clerk understand the motion? Yes?
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Townend, thank you. Mover, go ahead.
Thank you. The purpose, what got me thinking about this was with providing funds or in lieu of, for events within the community. The one thing that a lot of times it seems like we're missing is any kind of reporting back to what success there was, what benefit there was to the community, how it impacted the community. And I think that would be really good to be able to get some of that. I left it open that if there's other things in the policy that need to be adjusted or updated, it can be. But the one thing that I was really looking at was some way for us to be able to say the tax dollars were well spent. It was benefited the community because we ended up with, whether it's a festival or a partnering of something, then we can justify the expense, but we can also promote each other through the successes in the community and the community involvement.
Thank you, Deputy. Seconder comment?
Only that I concur with the Deputy Mayor's thoughts, which were very well articulated.
Thank you. Anyone else have comment on this subsequent motion? And seeing none? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Deputy. So, any other subsequent motions? Okay, moving forward, then we go to 14.1, the designated property grant application deadline. We have a report before us. We have the director. Ms. Merritt, do you have anything to add to the report at this time?
No, Your Worship, nothing to add.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions with regard to this report? I'm seeing no questions. There is a recommendation with two parts. Right, I'll look for a motion. Deputy, thank you. So moved. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Parks, thank you. Deputy, any comment? No. Councillor Parks, any comment? No. Anyone else have comment? I'm seeing none. And then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We move to item 14.2, the results of the RFP, the NRFP 2021-2 Chesterfield Terryton Bakers Lane infrastructure upgrades. We have a report before us with again a recommendation with a couple and clauses. And we have the director here. Is there anything you need to add to this report at this time?
Nothing to add, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions with regards to this? No questions? And I'm looking for a motion. Deputy, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Buderick. Thank you. Right. Any comments from the mover? From the seconder?
Just to clarify with the deputy that it's all three in the recommendation. Okay, I definitely second that. That's all. Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments from other members of council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to item 14.3, Loyalist Estates Subdivision Phase 6, Block 21, Part Lot Control Request. Again, we have a report before us, and I believe we have the director with us. Ms. Merritt, is there anything to add to this report at this time?
No, Your Worship, nothing to add.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Merritt? Seeing none, can I get a motion, please? Councillor Townend, so moved. All right, do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks, thank you. Mover comment? Seconder comment? Anyone else? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to item 15.1. Right? The Emergency Services Establishing and Regulating Bylaw, and we have Chief Stevenson here with us. Chief, do you have anything to add to the report at this time?
Nothing at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions for the chief with regard to this report? Seeing none. Right, we have a recommendation before us that includes passing a bylaw. Right. Council, do we have a mover? Councillor Buderick, so moved. Councillor Parks, seconds. Thank you. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Anyone else? I'm seeing no questions or comments. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And item 15.2, Emergency Services Response to Deb Barrett. We have the report before us. Chief, did you have comment?
Nothing at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do you have questions for the chief? I'm seeing no questions. And assuming that there's no recommendation attached to it, but I'm assuming it's a motion to receive that we would be looking for. Council, is there anything? Councillor Buderick, move to receive?
Moves to receive the information, yes. And I will speak to it shortly after.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Porter, thank you. Councillor Buderick, you wish to comment?
I just want to commend the chief putting the time together to take into the concerns of our constituents as serious as he does. He cares about everyone in the community, and I give him credit for a job well done.
Thank you. Councillor Porter, comment?
No, just ditto to what Councillor Buderick said.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'm seeing none. Again, we thank the chief for the report. Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We move to communications for consideration. First one up, 16.1. We have the Gavlis letter regarding a walk-in medical clinic. Council, what would you like to do with this letter? Councillor Porter?
Move to receive.
Motion to receive. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Parks? Councillor Porter, comment?
No.
Councillor Parks? Other comments? Councillor Townend, go ahead.
if it would be considered a friendly amendment, Your Worship, just to add to the motion to defer any action on it till after May 25th.
And would that be considered friendly from Councillor Porter or Councillor Parks?
If I could just clarify, I'm just moving to receive it, so I'm not asking for any action.
I realize that. We'll let that go then, and I'm conscious that the letter is looking for potential financial backing from council, but it presupposes that there won't be any access to the vibrancy funds, and I'm conscious that that decision has yet to be made, and so in Mrs. Gavalas's best interest, it may perhaps be prudent to defer a decision on it until after.
And I'll go to the clerk. Would it be possible for a member of council to bring this letter back at such time as it would be more appropriate later on?
Yes, Your Worship, or yes.
Okay, is that satisfactory then, Councillor Townend? Okay, then again, we have a motion to receive. It's seconded. Are there any other comments with regards to this? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We move to item 16.2, the Vibrancy Fund, the collection of correspondence received previously. Okay. Council, what would you like to do with this collection? And I'll go to Councillor Townend.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion with two clauses. The first is I would move to separate the letter dated April 19th from Ms. Deb Barrett and request a staff report. And the rest of the correspondence, I would move to receive for information and include with the staff report on the Renewable Energy Vibrancy Committee for the May 25th meeting.
Thank you. So I'll take that as so moved. Does the clerk, you have understanding in the motion? Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I'll go to the Deputy Mayor. You're seconding?
I'll second it for discussion, yes.
Thank you. All right. Mover, comments?
Yes, on the first item, I had motioned to at the last meeting of council to receive Ms. Barrett's letter because I had been under the impression that it would be on the committee of the whole agenda, and that's my mistake. I think Ms. Barrett took a great deal of time to raise some significant points in her letter. As we've seen earlier on the agenda, the fire chief has responded to some of those, and I think the nature of that correspondence would be better to be in the public, and hence my request for a more comprehensive staff report that addresses the letter that Ms. Barrett took the time to write. The rest of the correspondence being received for information, my addition to that is simply that it would be included in staff's report on the Renewable Energy Vibrancy Committee, whatever that looks like on the agenda for May 25th, simply so that the public can view these letters when it's relevant to when council's discussing them. I realize we're essentially dealing with them this evening, but it's just for the purposes of including them in information for the May 25th meeting where they'll be more relevant to a decision of council.
Thank you, Councillor Townend. Seconder, do you have comment?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Does anyone else have comment? Councillor Buderick, go ahead.
I won't be supporting this motion because during all of the time from the first committee of the whole to the last committee of the whole meeting, I took the time to talk to many different people throughout the township who've worked in the township, and a retired fire captain who was part of the Ernestown Fire Department and then was with the Loyalist Fire Department, had mentioned to me that when they went over to Amherst Island to do training, that the equipment was not up to snuff, and the fact that the chief took the time to go through this as diligent as he did and talked to the fact that they have very serviceable equipment that is there to provide safety for the residents of the island. I think that was more than enough, but that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yeah, I won't be supporting the motion either. I think that staff have already spent a lot of time with these letters. We have had these letters in our possession for some time, and I don't think it warrants a staff report.
Thank you. Other members of council? I'm seeing no other hands. Final comment to Councillor Townend? Nothing further? And I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Those opposed? And motion is defeated. Okay. Do I have a subsequent motion for 16.2? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Move to receive.
Motion to receive. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Parks, thank you. Councillor Porter, comment? None. Councillor Parks?
Just wanted to just quickly note that we've had these letters in our possessions, as Councillor Buderick has mentioned, for a number of weeks, and we've all reviewed them. And they're also included on this agenda, so I think access to the public is available.
Thank you. Other comments? Anyone? Back to mover? Nothing? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And we go to 16.3, the request for support for the EORN gig project. And there's a letter before us. Council, what would you like to do with this one? Anyone? Deputy, go ahead.
Move to receive and adopt the recommendation that the mayor, on behalf of council, send a letter of support urging the federal and provincial governments to fund the region-wide gig project.
Thank you. So moved. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Buderick, thank you. Deputy, would you like to speak to it?
Just that this is an ongoing, very important issue, and we need to keep it in front of the ones that hold the big purses and get this project taken care of. It's been proven over the last year, it's critical.
Thank you. Councillor Buderick?
More than critical. I will definitely agree with the deputy. There are still quite a few areas within even our own municipality that lack the basic services that are required.
Agreed. Thank you. Other members of council wish to comment? In the nature of full disclosure, I can say that as the warden of Lennox and Acton County, I have already drafted one letter in support of this. So I would be doing something similar as the mayor if this passes. Final comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Come to item 17, notices of motion or direct motion. Council? I'll start with Councillor Porter.
Yes, I have a notice of motion.
Just go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I don't know where my glasses are. Whereas police services play an integral role in our communities to provide safety and security for our residents, and whereas a good relationship between residents and police officers is highly dependent on mutual trust and respect, whereas our municipality supports our police officers and the Police Services Act, whereas our municipality supports the funding of police services with significant financial contributions annually from our taxpayers, and whereas police officers swear an oath to the people of our community upon enlistment in the police services. Therefore, be it resolved that this municipality not only continues to support, but also applaud the police agencies, police associations, and all members of police services who uphold and act accordingly pursuant to their sworn oath of service. And further, that this resolution, if passed, be circulated to all municipalities requesting support and to all police service agencies in Ontario.
Thank you. That is a notice of motion. Right? It doesn't require a seconder unless there is a desire to move it to a direct motion.
I would like council to decide if it's worthy of a direct motion, please.
Thank you. Do I have a mover to make it a direct motion? Councillor Buderick? Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Gordon, thank you. And this would move it from a notice of motion to a direct motion. Councillor Porter, does the clerk have a copy of your motion?
Yes, she does.
Thank you. And I will ask her to post it once we get the direction to move it to a direct motion. Okay. We have mover and seconder on the direct motion. Any comments?
I'm very familiar with and friendly with many people who are in law enforcement. They are in these times going above and beyond, and they should be recognized.
Thank you. Other comments? And then I'll call the question on the decision to make it a direct motion. Right? I believe I need 2/3 majority for this. Right? And I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. And we have unanimity. It can be a direct motion. I'll ask the clerk to post the motion on screen so all council members of council can see it. Again, I know that Councillor Porter has already read out the motion, but
Are
I'll
you
give
able
you
to
a
see
few
that, Your
moments to
Worship?
read over it. Is that enough time for everyone? I'm seeing nods. Councillor Porter, you are so moving this then?
Yes.
Do I have a seconder for this as a direct motion? I'll go to Councillor Townend. Thank you. Councillor Porter, comment?
I just think it's important, especially now in these troubling times, that the police know that we do support them. We applaud their good work and we stand behind them.
Thank you. Seconder comment? Nothing? Anyone else have comment? I'll go to the deputy.
Yes, I'm going to support this. If I'm reading it correctly, like Councillor Porter said, our police services have done an excellent job. They typically do, but I mean, it's been a rough go for them, and bad publicity, a lot of social media and news items that are derogatory towards them. And our local detachment has done an excellent job, I think. Our local area services have done an excellent job. They've been able to work with the communities and the people within the communities. And I know just recently, within the last couple of weeks, I've had 2 of our local residents come to me and say they wanted the police to actually be recognized and be thanked, and they weren't sure who to contact and how to do it. So this is, in a broader aspect, this is actually taking their requests one step further and making it public within this meeting. So I'm in favor of that, and I certainly agree with the sentiment of the motion.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, to the clerk.
Just clarification, Your Worship. It says circulated to all municipalities in Canada. Is that Ontario? I'm not sure that we would have a list, or we would have to go through somewhere to get a list for all Canada, but we would definitely be able to do Ontario.
My intent was all of Canada, just to lead as an example of what other municipalities should be doing, not only in Ontario, but other provinces as well.
Councillor Porter, may I offer a suggestion that the clerk is able to utilize the, I'll say the mailing list of the various provincial municipal associations. If she can send it to them with a request to send it on to all of the lower tier, would that be sufficient?
Yes, absolutely.
Does that help to the clerk? Yes?
I believe so, yes, thank you.
And I would assume and FCM. Yeah. Okay, anything further with regard to this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Any other notices of motion or direct motion? I'm seeing none. We move to the consent agenda. For the purpose of convenience and for expediting meetings, matters of business that are repetitive or routine in nature are included on the consent agenda, and all such matters of business contained in the consent agenda are voted on collectively. A particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or for a separate vote upon the request of any member of council. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter of business is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes for the meeting. Is there anything any member of council wishes to extract from the consent agenda at this time? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
I'd like to extract 21.1 and 21.2, please.
21.1 and 21.2. Okay, anything else that anyone wishes to extract? Deputy, go ahead.
I'd like to extract 21.3.
21.3. Okay, anything else? Any members? No? Okay, then can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda without those three extracted items? Councillor Parks, so moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gordon, thank you. Any comments on the consent agenda without the three? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. So we will move to 21.1. Okay. This is a resolution from the city of Brantford. And I believe it was Councillor Porter who asked that to be extracted. Go ahead, Councillor Porter.
Move to receive and support.
Motion to receive and support. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Buderick, thank you. Councillor Porter, comment?
I just think that it's an activity that can be done safely, and I think people need something to do right now.
Thank you. Councillor Buderick?
Actually been proven in the past to be done safely. So that's why I support it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anyone? No? And back to mover. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Move to item 21.2, to the resolution from the municipality of Calvin. Okay. And I believe this was Councillor Porter who extracted this as well. Councillor Porter, do you wish to address it?
Just receive and support.
Motion to receive and support. Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Parks, thank you. Councillor Porter, comment?
Just that it is a necessary thing. Unfortunately, it's necessary, and it's yeah, it's just so necessary, especially right now.
Unfortunately necessary, yes. Councillor Parks.
That's my sentiments exactly. We're seeing more and more crises happening every day in mental health issues. So definitely this is something that I support 100%.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'm seeing none. Mover final. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We go to 21.3, Town of Perth, hospital funding of major capital equipment. And I believe this was the deputy mayor that extracted it. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to move for receive and support.
Motion to receive and support. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Porter, thank you. And Mover, go ahead.
Just briefly that I agree that we've got to make it known that we oppose the province from maybe not cutting costs, but just underfunding our hospital systems and the infrastructure that they need, because typically it ends up falling down. They assume that the counties and cities and municipalities will pick up the slack, basically. It's all one taxpayer, so keep it at the level that it's supposed to be at, and where they have more than just property taxes to be able to raise revenues to be able to cover their budgets. And I just see this as underfunding is just a way of silently downloading to lower tier governments without actually coming out and having the nerve to say so.
Thank you. Seconder comment?
I agree 100% with Deputy Mayor. Community hospitals are very important to the health and well-being of community members. And, you know, if these hospitals don't get the funding they require from the province, we're going to see many of them close, and that would be a travesty, in my opinion.
Thank you. Other comments? I'm seeing none. And then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to, there's no communication, members' privilege. Is there anything under members' privilege that any member wishes to bring up? No one? Okay, I will take the opportunity to thank our staff in general, but most specifically note that the sign wars that have been going on recently across the municipalities, between the fire departments, between many businesses, has extended to the municipal level. And our Loyalist staff called out to the city of Kingston to ask them to respond in a sign war. They did so today, and I hope you will all notice the response that Loyalists put back out this afternoon, and all in good fun. I certainly hope we continue the sign wars. Got to get some enjoyment out of these days. Thank you. Anything else under members' privilege? Seeing none, we move to upcoming meeting dates. We are proposing I'm calling a meeting for the Committee of the Whole next Monday, the 17th, with regard to the Community Hub. And then we have our regular council on the 25th. That is a day late because of the holiday. On June 6th, we have Committee of Adjustment and another Committee of the Whole. And June 28th, we will have regular council. And I think we're missing a council meeting in there. June 14th, maybe? To the clerk? And
Yes, it looks like that, Your Worship. Sorry.
thank you. Just so that it is well noted that we do have a meeting in the second week of June. Okay. With that, we move to the confirmatory bylaw. And someone please make a motion for that. Councillor Porter, so moved. Councillor Gordon, seconded. Any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And I seek a motion to adjourn. Councillor Parks and Deputy Mayor, thank you. And I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, both here in council, our staff, and the attendees. And I hope you all have a great day, a great week, and enjoy some better weather. Take care.
Good night, everybody.